Live. Hi, welcome everyone to Blockchain Professionals August 2020. I'm Adriana Belotti. I'm here today with Simon Harman from
Hello.
Hope you've all been well. Welcome back to our regulars. It's great to see your names pop up in the chat. So keep that happening while we're talking. We're gonna have a very informal chat, so there'll be lots of opportunities for questions.
Live.
Keep them coming.
Welcome everyone to Blockchain Professionals August 2020. I'm Adriana Belotti.
There you go. That happens sometimes as well. All right.
I was wondering if that was me. I was thinking I was going crazy, and I've been playing it on my phone and my laptop.
No, I had to open up the window over here on this computer to put the live stream key on, and then I forgot to close it. You know, I never do a meetup when there isn't a technical problem, so I'm used to that right now. Anyways, thanks Jess for looking at the Q&A for us and managing the questions. Thanks for your help. A warm welcome also to our first timers. I'm happy that you found us. Hopefully we can help you along your blockchain learning journey. That's the purpose of these meetups. I'm super keen on hearing from Simon today, and he's ready to jump in and tell us all about DeFi and the research and work that he's been doing with Loki and the team. Before we get into that, I have a couple of announcements. Firstly, a shout out to our meetup sponsor, the good folks at Edge Wallet. Edge is a privacy and security focused multi-currency wallet that is non-custodial, which is important because, not your keys, not your coins. So with Edge, you can buy Bitcoin in Australia using Banksa, and the coins are never stored in the exchange. Instead, they are automatically sent to your wallet. We did a meetup about that a couple of months ago. So if you're new and you're wondering how to get started, have a look at that video. And if you're not new, but would like to support those who support the ecosystem, also go check out their wallet because it's pretty user-friendly and secure. I will link the video below, and if you have any questions, get in touch with the Edge team. Last announcement, Shimmery just arrived in Australia. I think I have the first pack. Here it is. It's a it's a game that teaches you how to mine Bitcoin. It's for kids, and it should be super interesting. I'm going to very soon do a Twitch stream where Michuski and I are gonna do the first gameplay. I haven't played it yet, so I'm really looking forward to it. So we have nonsense, and the cards look cool. We have rewards, which obviously are Bitcoins. We have targets, things that you need to find in the game. We have attacks, and we have blocks. And we have a die that shows you either to mine or to attack, which is pretty cool. I'm excited. So stay tuned for the Twitch live stream because I also have the second pack of Shimmery to arrive in Australia, and I'm going to give this one away. So I bought two because I wanted to give this one away to you guys. So this is what we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. I'll see. Just watch out on Meetup and sign up for updates. Alrighty, let's go on to learning all about what's next for DeFi. Welcome, Simon Harman. How you doing? How are things in Melbourne?
Thanks very much. Yeah, things in Melbourne, well, locked down. I think everyone understands what that means, but it's okay. I figured today, for our casual conversation, I figured not as a fake Zoom fireplace, but a real one would be very appropriate. And thank you to Chris Pavlesic from my team, who's in the chat saying that it is a great fireplace. It is great. I am looking at the chat. I'm going to try not look at it too much, but I can see your feedback on what you guys are saying on my phone in case you're wondering. So if you would like to be active in the chat, I would love that as well. It helps me understand what you guys want to know more about, and I can kind of steer the conversation where it needs to go to keep things interesting for you as well. So Very happy to be here. Very happy to be speaking with someone that I met a couple of years ago, earlier on in the Loki journey. So thanks very much for having me.
Thank you, and thanks for bringing a real fire to our fireside chat. That's the first for our meetup. Things that are only possible with online meetups and lockdowns, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe sometime in the future we'll find a fireplace in Melbourne for a real one.
Oh, that'll be cool. All right, let's get into it. So you recently wrote a pretty cool article called on Medium, DeFi, the dangerous game of governance tokens. And as I was telling you before we started, I had to read this twice because it's long and it's super interesting. And you started that with the Great Dichotomy. What is the Great Dichotomy, Simon?
Well, the Great Dichotomy is that we are seeing a lot of fueled growth at the moment. I think this has calmed down a little bit in the weeks since that article has been published, which is good, but it's still not completely calmed down. There's the Great Dichotomy is that we are fueling the growth of the DeFi ecosystem on the farming of tokens, which don't actually hold any real fundamental value. There's no reason why these governance tokens should be worth anything. There's no utility associated with them. They're not supposed to be used as currencies. It's their only use is essentially to govern certain platforms, even though the governance tokens themselves, for the most part, aren't yet hooked up to any sort of decentralized governance proposal mechanism or anything. So we're seeing a lot of instances where the concept of yield farming is become very popular in the crypto culture. And I think it's still difficult for a lot of people to understand what it is exactly. But essentially, it's a mechanism of getting people to put liquidity into various pools and places that make the coin more tradable, and rewarding them for doing so by giving them extra tokens. And these tokens don't necessarily have anything to do with the platform that they're trying to support. Oftentimes they're completely separated from the product. You don't need a lot of these tokens to interact with these systems. They've just been created as a fundraising mechanism. And obviously, at the moment when there is so much hype and so much fever to get involved in DeFi products, and watching, the price performance of a lot of these assets go through extraordinary periods of growth, it's very tempting to just look at these projects and these coins and just go all in, because in a bull market, the saying goes, it's hard to lose money in a bull market. The reality is we've got to be a lot more careful about this, because the crazy thing about these governance tokens is that they're essentially loyalty points for a system that is often that have only existed for a few days. Why would you buy loyalty points for a system that's only been around for a few days? It's a bit crazy to me. And in the article, I kind of explored how the common idea of what people think modern monetary theory is kind of being applied here, where you can conceivably print money without it having any real effect on the value of that currency. For some reason, people have associated this idea of the Fed printing money constantly, and somehow the markets are still going up, and somehow things are staying together. They're associating that popular culture idea. This is not actually an idea that economists agree with, but it is a very common meme that you see on Twitter, for instance. You see it all over the internet, people discussing it. Money's just getting printed. Why can't we just print money elsewhere? Why can't we print governance tokens, which give people a reason to stake into liquidity pools, which give people a reason to lend and borrow and use these platforms, and basically just wash trade through these systems to earn these loyalty points. But that modern monetary theory never claims that you can just print money and it somehow all works. you can only do that in very established economies with a very specific set of things that you can do with the money that you print. You know, you need to use it in certain ways to promote ongoing growth. Otherwise, if you're just printing money and just giving it away, you are allowing that money to be used in a more general setting. And in that more general setting, that is when you start to experience inflation, because then you do have an oversupply of that currency on foreign markets, and that's what causes it to come down. This is all getting very big and all very, you know, crazy, because we're starting to talk about global economies and stuff. I just thought it was an interesting idea, the juxtaposition between modern monetary theory and governance tokens. The governance token situation is much more simple. You know, people are creating tokens out of thin air, selling them with 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 million dollar market cap. And yet the token itself, the platform that they're based on doesn't need them. They don't actually do what they say they do on the box. And their only use is to be sold to people who buy them, even though those people, other than speculative reasons, have no other reason to buy them. And this is all sounding to me like a bad idea. I don't know about you, but to me, it sounds like a bad idea.
Sounds like a bad idea to me too. It's like, let's mint some token that represents the Harbor Bridge and sell that.
Well, I mean, it's not even that. It's like printing a token that rewards you every time you walk over the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Well, at least you're rewarding someone for exercise in that case. It's not a bad thing.
Exactly, but those rewards are only worth something when someone else is willing to buy those loyalty points off you. And if you can't spend those loyalty points, who in their right mind would buy them? All other things aside. You know?
I think people who want the instant reward of seeing the market grow. I mean, the gamblers, right? Gamblers buy them.
Yeah. In other words, this thing is entirely fueled by speculation. And actually, that's not true. DeFi is not entirely fueled by speculation. That is a critical point that I want to get across. There are some seriously cool things happening in DeFi right now. There are some seriously good projects happening, but there are a lot of things happening in the crypto market that aren't actually DeFi products themselves. The governance tokens, that is, but they're not an essential function of these platforms. And yet, because DeFi is such a hot topic, people are buying them anyway to speculate on them.
So a lot of noise that is sort of detracting from the actual good things that are happening.
Well, how do they call it noise? I mean, you know, you don't get to a $500 million market cap without something actually happening. You know, people are actually making boatloads of money buying these governance tokens, buying and selling these governance tokens. So it's not clear that just because there is no value behind the governance token fundamentally, that it still doesn't make sense to buy them, because it is often a good trade. And lots of people in the last couple of months have made a lot of money yield farming and speculating on these assets. So you can't say definitively that it's just noise, because yes, it's noisy, but it's also like, you know, we're seeing market capitalizations 10x. We're seeing things happen that haven't been happening since, you know, 2017. So clearly something's happening here. It's just, we have to be careful about what we're doing, because if we stray too far away from fundamentals and go into this speculative craze again, the same thing that happened in 2017 will again. We end up in a situation where people with very short-minded timeframes start rocking up, creating a whole stack load of projects that are all talk and no walk. And then it suddenly does become very hard to determine which are what is noise and what is not. If we allow this sort of non-fundamentals driven growth to get out of control, we will not be able to find the diamonds in the rough anymore. It will just get too noisy, and regulators will start coming and everyone will have a bad time all of a sudden. So we need to dial down what is happening right now and take a step back and try and do things properly.
So how do you think, how do people that are sort of new to this space go about finding the right projects to support?
Well, I mean, that's an age-old question. You know, back in 2017, we had the same problem where lots of new people showed up. They were really keen on Bitcoin. They thought Ethereum was a great idea. They kind of understood those. They had some of those. If you're new to blockchain, that's about as far as you should go, as far as I'm concerned. At least initially, the blockchain itself is a huge idea, and these are two projects that have, you know, between them, you know, 15, 16, 17 years of history. And there's a lot to learn. So there's an incredible amount of information that you should have before investing a lot of your time and effort and capital into blockchain. And if you are new to this, you know, that is the place to start. When we start talking about DeFi has been powered by people. DeFi would not have been possible 4 years ago, because back then, the number of people that really understood cryptocurrency well was much, much smaller. Now there are probably millions of people around the world that are basically subject matter experts on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and their histories. And they use that information to build on their understanding over time. So a lot of the people that are trading DeFi right now have been in the crypto space for 3+ years. They've been around the block. They know what's going on. A lot of them have been around there for more than 5 years. You know, they were there the last bull market. They really understand what's happening. So I don't think I don't think many people are actually genuinely being fooled by these governance tokens, but I think that there is a lot of fear now that people will start rocking up who are new to crypto, not understand what is happening, what they're buying. And that could have big consequences for them, which has big consequences for everyone else. So I think in DeFi, you know, you can look at the big ones. You can look at Compound, you can look at Aave, you can look at Uniswap, you can look at Yearn. You know, these are all massive projects now, huge projects. But most of them are just a single smart contract. Uniswap, you can't even buy the Uniswap token, because actually, maybe they did start making one. I can't remember, but as far as I'm aware, Uniswap has not had a coin that you could buy for it for the last 2 years. And yet it is the biggest decentralized exchange in the world by a huge margin. They have $1 billion of liquidity now. So now we're starting to see that, well, you know, these are actually, they're not coins, they're not projects, they're dApps. They're dApps being deployed on Ethereum that don't need a coin or a token. Some of them have it anyway as a fundraising mechanism. Yearn, for instance, has a coin, but YFI, the coin associated with it, does not need to exist. All Yearn is, it's like an aggregator. So it would be like if someone started a website to combine the listings on realestate.com.au and domain.com.au, so you could see all the houses in one place and automatically sort of figure things out. It's the same thing. If you want to lend or borrow crypto, all it does is it just looks at all of the different platforms that you can lend from or borrow from, and just picks the cheapest one and automatically switches it. That's all it does. It doesn't actually store any liquidity itself. And yet this thing went up to $38,000 a coin and had like a $700 million market cap the other day. So
that's crazy.
But the token is not used in that process. So, you know, it's really difficult now, because you can't just look at a coin and go, oh yeah, that coin does this. We can buy that coin and kind of understand what it does, because now there's coins that are connected to a platform but actually are not used at all by that platform. And now it's getting a bit wild.
It's a wildfire, much unlike the tamed fire that you have beside you.
Oh, this is gas. You know, this is very controlled. You know, you can dial this up to like within 5% accuracy.
That is a good segue to, let's talk about your project and how you chose to create the governance within it.
Sure. So, yeah, I suppose I should introduce myself. I didn't actually introduce myself. I realize now, which is a bit silly, but there you go. So I'm Simon Harman. I'm the CEO of the Loki Project. We're a Melbourne-based blockchain open source software foundation called the Loki Foundation. We've been trying to create some platforms and services, privacy-oriented generally, out of the Loki service node network. So we have a privacy coin called Loki. We created that in 2018. We were successful in completing a raise for that, which has been fantastic and has been funding us since then. And we have used that to build up the Loki service node network, which is this network infrastructure that we can use for a bunch of different things. One of the things we've used it for is called Session, which is a secure messaging application that you can download on your phone or your computer right now. We released it a few months ago. It's getting better every day. And it's essentially an end-to-end encrypted private messenger, just like WhatsApp or Signal, except there's no phone numbers, there's no central servers, there's no way people can figure out who you're talking to. So we've done a lot of metadata protection there. So it's a really, really cool product, really trying to advance things forward. And the benefits that we're able to provide users of the app come from our use of blockchain technology and the way the Loki network has created this sort of secure network infrastructure that can be relied upon as a collective. So yeah, that's what we've been up to recently. And then more recently, with DeFi, rising to prominence, some of the inner circle of Loki supporters approached us a few months ago saying, could you use the Loki network to facilitate this trading scheme where instead of having centralized exchanges that you rely on, is there a way that we could use this sort of staked node network to be able to build a system where you can trust the nodes you can't trust any single person that's running, some node or whatever, but in aggregate, you can kind of trust them. Is it possible to build a system where you'll be able to swap assets across different blockchains without requiring any special software or synthetic assets or other things? And we thought this was a really interesting idea. So we've been supporting them and building up that project in the background, trying to establish the best way to do that and to help them get an implementation done so we can put it on the Loki blockchain. So we've been working with them to help work out how we're going to do it on the Loki blockchain side of things. And what some of the parameters are around the security, how it's all going to work. We got some pretty exciting stuff to announce on that in the near future. I can't say any more than that, unfortunately. But so very soon on the Loki blockchain, we'll be having a major DeFi product show up as well, which is really exciting. If I had to describe Blockswap in a sentence, it's Uniswap, but for everything. It's a way that you can swap your Bitcoin to Ethereum without having to download any new software, or wrap your assets or do this crazy Ethereum stuff where you send your Bitcoin into this centralized vault and then it converts it into this Ethereum token that's like wrapped Bitcoin or REN BTC, which is centralized as well at the moment. And then you can use that to trade on no, we just want to swap assets. Really simple. You put in the address you want it sent to, it gives you an address to send to, you send the Bitcoin and you get the Ethereum. That's the way that Blockswap wants to go about things as a decentralized alternative to centralized exchanges. And based on what I've seen through all of the documentation that's shown up, based on the review that we've conducted and participated in, I think it's going to be a really, really exciting product, and I'm stoked to have it on the Loki blockchain.
And that is going to be for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and what else?
Well, it's all going to be backed by Loki. And by having support for the Ethereum blockchain, we can actually automatically support all of the Ethereum tokens through routing it through Uniswap and through Curve. So anything that Curve and Uniswap support, Blockswap is also going to be able to support. And then it's up to us to connect extra blockchains. So for instance, we can connect Arweave, we can connect Polkadot, we can connect EOS, we can connect a variety of all of the different blockchains, Binance, whatever it may be, so long as we think that the community and the Blockswap team think that a certain type of blockchain is going to bring enough liquidity to the platform to be useful, then we can help do the integration work to get that blockchain supported and connected to the whole DeFi ecosystem. Because once you can talk, once Ethereum has a way to talk to Bitcoin, it has a way to talk to Loki, Bitcoin and Loki are now connected to everything else as well. You can go to DAI, you can go to USDC, USDT, you can go MakerDAO, you can, like, all of these coins that are connected to Uniswap, we can do all of that as well. So pretty comprehensive solution.
What are some of the challenges of implementing a decentralized exchange in Australia?
What do you mean? What do you mean by that exactly?
So like exchanges have to like meet some sort of criteria that by the government in terms of how people transact in them. So how does a decentralized exchange compare to those? And what are some of the challenges?
Well, when it comes to a decentralized exchange, it's actually a lot less complex, because in a decentralized context, there is no person that's actually taking custody of someone else's funds. So you don't have a situation where Uniswap is recognized as an exchange, because it's not. The liquidity that's provided there is provided completely by the community. It's just a smart contract that runs on Ethereum. You know, no one can take it down. No one can really shut it down. Well, actually, someone possibly could. I don't know if there's a feature in there that allows someone to shut it down, but I'm assuming that it just operates. It's completely programmatic. There's no central party that's involved in storing the funds securely, registering accounts, all of that. And there is no legal precedent for this yet. So you can't say definitively that decentralized products aren't like normal exchanges. And so I can't definitively say that Blockswap won't be categorized as an exchange, because of its decentralized nature, it's not, doesn't fit these regulations. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a regulator either. So I can't say either way how that's going to go. But from the discussions I've had with people in various jurisdictions about this, is that decentralized exchange products, such as Uniswap, for instance, is a really good example, or Curve, probably not going to be considered as exchanges. And so any of the normal rules that might apply to them probably won't apply to these products. But even then, Australia, in terms of running a centralized exchange, for instance, let's say you wanted to run a centralized exchange in Australia. I actually think the Australian regulations are pretty forgiving, I would say, to people that are wanting to start these kinds of things. You don't need any crazy licenses or anything to start a centralized exchange. You don't even need to register with with AUSTRAC right now, unless you're actually taking physical currency, or like actual Australian dollars, US dollars, actual US dollars, for instance, fiat currencies, and allowing people to trade cryptocurrency with them. Then you need to register with AUSTRAC, and you need to be conducting KYC on your clients. But in Australia, I mean, I don't know if anyone's tried to do this. I probably wouldn't recommend people try and start a crypto to crypto exchange in Australia, because there's already a lot of crypto to crypto exchanges, and who cares? Yeah, you technically wouldn't have to register for AUSTRAC in that case, and you wouldn't need any other licenses. You could just do it. Not recommending that, though. That's probably not a great idea.
There's a question here that I think it's to do with privacy. Eric Bennett asks, with the history of Australian government overreach in the sector in terms of compulsory crypto backdoor regulation, and now in terms of moves to ban privacy coins, What are the contingency plans for the inevitable?
If you're saying that the Australian regulators are delisting privacy coins, that is actually not true. We looked into this the other day. The reason why CoinSpot and a couple of other exchanges have been delisting privacy coins has got nothing to do with Australia. It's got everything to do with a company called Chainalysis and the payment providers that work with them. So if you want to maintain your banking status in Australia as a centralized exchange doing fiat currency specifically, you have to be in the good books with Austrac. And the easiest way for companies to do that is to pay a company called Chainalysis, who specialize in looking at auditable blockchains and being able to decipher whose coins are whose. You can pay them some money, they'll provide you a service, and then if the regulators have any questions about where things are being sent, you just talk to Chainalysis. Obviously, Chainalysis doesn't like working with exchanges when they have privacy coins because they can't do any chain analysis on privacy coins. So if they want to keep working with Chainalysis, this is what I understand anyway. There's maybe a variation on what is actually the case, but as far as I understand, they are delisting privacy coins because they want to keep working with they want to keep their bank accounts basically. And the easiest way for them to do that is to work with Chainalysis. They could do it another way, but they've chosen not to, probably for operational reasons, probably because it's just easier. And privacy coins aren't a very low volume in Australia for fiat currencies. I think Australian exchanges don't really need to worry about supporting too many coins. As long as there are crypto on-ramps and off-ramps, which there are plenty of now, there's dozens, people will be able to use tools like Uniswap and Blockswap and other decentralized tools to be able to quickly and easily swap, Bitcoin or whatever into whatever asset they want. And it won't cost much and it'll be really easy. So I don't think Australian exchanges should be listing privacy coins anyway. It's kind of a waste of time in my opinion. What was the other part of the question? There was something else about privacy.
No, that was pretty much it. Regulation in
terms of the backdoor.
Yes, there was a backdoor, the crypto backdoor regulation that was passed, I guess, 2 years ago.
Yeah, so we've looked at this long and hard because obviously as developers of a secure messaging app in Australia, we thought that this might be quite relevant to what we were doing.
100%.
So we did a review of the legislation at every stage of its review through the Parliament, and we were able to ascertain that because of the nature of the projects that we work on, they're all open source. Everything is on GitHub. Everyone can see everything. And the types of notices that the authorities, broadly speaking, could get us to build, capabilities they call them, actually can't be applied in aggregate to the whole network or any whole system, in fact. The definition of systemic vulnerability gives you a pretty solid defense, even if you're a company which has entirely closed source code that isn't auditable by other people. You would probably be able to pretty strongly argue that putting a backdoor into every customer's device or account or whatever it is that you're building, ISP, phone app, whatever it is a pretty damaging thing to security. Security vulnerabilities, you do not want to leave them for someone else to find. So I'm not convinced that the Australian government is going to use this thing in the way people thought that they might use it in. This encryption backdoor where they can somehow compel WhatsApp, which is like the most used chat app anywhere. The tiny little Australian government can say, hey, can you put a backdoor in for all of our Australian users? Absolutely not. That's just not happening. That's a pipe dream. People have a very confused idea about what governments can and cannot actually do with this kind of legislation. And I feel like people get very, very worked up about it for not much of a reason. We, in our analysis, in terms of its implications for Loki, including for our existing products like Session and LokiNet, and future products that will appear on the Loki network as well, like Blockswap potentially. The Australian government cannot force generic users to download software that we have made insecure because of what they told us to do. Cannot be done. What they can do is they can say to us, hey, would you like to build a version of your software that we can put on that specific person's phone that we have a warrant for, and then install it on their phone, but only their phone, no one else. We could do that, but they'd just be paying us to do work that they could already do, because it's all open source anyway. If someone wants to download the client and mess with it to make it, to make it hackable, basically, they can do that, but then they've somehow got to convince Google or Apple to put it on the target person's phone. And that is not our problem. And again, it comes back to the reality of the government trying to convince the world's largest tech companies to do things for them is a pipe dream. It just will not happen.
100%. There's another question here. From Simon Q. How is Blockswap different to or the same as atomic swaps?
It's different in that it doesn't require any collateral. Sorry, I'm thinking about the Lightning Network now. It works very differently. Atomic swaps require the chain that you're talking about themselves to support atomic swaps. And once that happens, you can have that. But Blockswap, we don't want we can't convince Ethereum that they should support Blockswap, Blockswap can't convince Ethereum that they should support Blockswap and change their whole blockchain and hard fork it so that it can be done. That's nonsense. You can't build things like that. So we're taking an approach where we think that the idea of using these sort of decentralized vaults, these stake nodes, overcome the problem of having to do non-standard transactions in order to do cross-chain swaps. We want it so that when people go to Blockswap, we help design the system so that people would be able to log into their Binance account or BitMax account or whatever, and withdraw directly from the exchange into a Blockswap vault, and then receive the coin that they wanted in the wallet that they specified. And that's a really interesting idea, because that means that not only does the blockchain not have to support what we're doing, but even the specific wallet, you don't even need to download a non-generic wallet. You can use whatever you already have and it should just work. There won't be any problems there. The standard transactions, and that's a really important step. I think the main differentiating factor for Blockswap is going to be that it won't require you to have any special software, any special wallets. You won't have to wrap your assets in some Ethereum token that kind of defeats the purpose of having that asset in the first place. And you won't need to go through this multi-step process of wrapping and unwrapping things. We just want it to be really straightforward. You send, you receive, that's it.
So you don't even have to buy Loki?
No, you don't. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. That's one I missed. In this system, you will not have to buy Loki to swap between Bitcoin and Ethereum. What happens instead is that Blockswap has designed this thing called a pool balance transfer, where all of the liquidity pools that will be included in it are backed by Loki. So you don't actually have a Bitcoin and Ethereum pair. You have a Bitcoin and Loki pair and a Loki and Ethereum pair. And then you can basically just do an accounting trick on the back end. So you receive Bitcoin in one end, you send out the Loki. No Loki actually moves here, because all you got to say is it's like an accounting trick. You don't actually send the bank account. You just say, oh, it's in this pool now. You send the Loki to the other pool, and then you send the Ethereum out of the Ethereum vault. And on the way, Loki is collected as fees as the trade is being conducted on the background. So some of it, a tiny amount of it, is moved off to pay for the network providers and pay the liquidity providers. But no one, the swapper themselves, never has to have Loki in order to conduct the swap. So it's a really attractive system. Skeleton
4 asks, how will Blockswap benefit Loki holders?
Well, I mean, if Blockswap does exactly what I just said it was going to do, then that's how, even though people aren't directly holding Loki, if when they're swapping across it, the fact that they're paying fees in it along the way will mean that there should be some benefit to Loki holders if Blockswap gets used a lot. That's a big if. It's one of those things that we as a foundation think is a really cool idea. It's something we're really keen on supporting, but at the end of the day, we don't have that much power in that we can't tell people to use it and force them to use it. People have actually got to want this thing, and so if people don't swap across it, it's not going to have any sort of yields for the network. But my hope is that by supporting it, we can actually get quite a lot of volume moving through it, and that would be really cool to see.
How do you keep your community happy?
I think just talking, I think events like this is really good, showing your face and discussing things and making sure that there's regular announcements and making sure that things are always moving. I think our community is really fantastic. I think they're one of the best communities out there, really. We have a couple of professional trolls that hang around the channels, but almost everyone else is always going, no, making fun of them. It's really funny to see. It's really great to see the support from the community throughout the whole process, And we've had friction points with the community, but I think that's where a lot of value is actually created, where, you can take an idea to the community and they can have a look at it and say, oh, we think this is cool, or we have questions about this, or we're not sure about this, or whatever. And then, there's a dialogue that happens, not just between the Loki team and, the people that work on Loki full time and the rest of the community members, but also between the community itself. I see a lot of conversations between Loki supporters that actually yield really useful information and ideas that we can then take and turn into practical implementation. And that's really rewarding. So, yeah.
I'm sure it is. Are you using Session to manage your community?
We do have session groups for the Loki community, which are regularly used, but we can't force everyone to use Session. We know some people have had problems with Session as well. So, I'm one of those people. I currently can't use this right now for Session, my phone, because I've been waiting to get back into the office so I can debug the bugs on this phone, so I can work out what's going wrong with it. So I can't actually use it right now, but I'm going to fix it. So it's okay. That's the reason why I could reset it. But I think it's really important though to have like a multi-platform approach to the community, because some, Session's good for just chat and whatever, but you can't put Reddit posts on there. You can't have like complex threads about specific topics. You can't have Twitter where you can interact with this whole massive community. And Telegram is while it is not private, it is a really slick app, and I understand why a lot of people, including myself, use it on a daily basis. So, we don't judge Loki. Session is a great product, but it is more suited to one-on-one conversations, in my opinion. Which is generally what people use secure messaging for anyway. So, the fact that not all of the local community hangs out on Session doesn't bother me too much, although it would be cool to see more of us there.
I think we'll get there. My Telegram account personally sort of like self-destructed because I wasn't on Telegram very often, but I do have Session. I talked to a few people. I'm trying to get my mom on it. That'll be something. All right, question from Jess Oswald. What were some challenges you encountered as you were developing / launching your product? Any annoying regulations, etc.?
I'm going to assume that you're talking about the Loki ecosystem in general, the Loki network in general. And so, yeah, I mean, there's always questions about how to do things properly, I don't consider myself to be a cowboy. I like doing things properly, and I like doing things for a reason. So yeah, I think that, there's always challenges in setting up a new business or a new project or a new foundation. I mean, for us, what something that we thought was really important was to get that
that foundation status recognized as an open source software foundation, an entity that is providing products not for the explicit benefit of the people that are creating those products, but for, the general public good, and to be able to provide education to people on the types of products that we're working on. Secure messaging is a really important topic. And while we're working on it, we're also doing a lot of education as well, creating a lot of reports, generating a lot of insights, and talking with a lot of NGOs and journalists and other sorts of people that might find those products useful. So getting the foundation status for us was something that was really important to us. And that was a pretty straightforward process, actually, but a lot of work went into it to make sure that, with the whole token sale and everything, that all those things would align, and that we were doing things within the objectives of the foundation. And that's an ongoing thing that we have to contend with. We have to make sure that we are actually meeting those standards and doing things correctly. So yeah, I mean, there has been trouble with that, in that it's not as straightforward as just creating a smart contract and watching it go to $500 million market cap. Like, that's happened a few times in the last couple of months. But yeah, I mean, with the help of a great legal team at Piper Alderman and the team at Loki as well, we've been able to work through all of those challenges so far. So yeah, it's been pretty straightforward.
That's pretty cool. Another question, any plans from Eric Bennett again? Any plans on taking it, any plans on taking it in the Reddit competition direction, given how heavily they are manipulating and censoring content?
I'm not sure what exactly that means.
I think, do you plan on doing something that's similar to Reddit, given that they are now going down the censorship route?
As in, are we going to censor our users? Is that the question?
You're going to do a competing tool to Reddit.
Oh, I mean, we've thought about launching some apps on LokiNet. We thought about, social media, Mastodon forks, that kind of thing before, but, ultimately we've got plenty on our plate already. But we're always happy to support developers who would like to use our technology and be able to provide support and education to anyone that wants to build new products on our network. We think our network is a really useful tool that tons of people can use to build some really cool things that genuinely solve some serious problems of today. One of those is censorship, which we're seeing in much greater volumes than we ever have before, even in the West, on websites that are commonly viewed as being controlled by the West or whatever. So yeah, I think there's definitely scope for that sort of product to be built on Loki, particularly LokiNet. I think it would be really suitable for. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
What are some examples of projects that have been building stuff on Loki? Or if there hasn't been any, what are some projects that could be built on Loki?
Well, I mean, Session is the big product that's been built.
Apart from the ones that you were building, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So the question's got to do with what have other people been building? Well, we've seen a few really interesting things. We've seen a couple of marketplaces pop up. We've seen some people trying to do some work around Loki exit nodes and trying to create a market for that ecosystem, which has been really cool to see. Someone's built a LokiNet specific search engine, so LokiNet's own search engine, which someone linked me to a couple of days ago. That's really cool. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff starting to appear, and there's been drips and drabs that have come over the months and years that have come before. We also had a lot of people contributing to all of our repositories. We've got 20, 30 code repositories, and they're all they're all pretty well documented. Some of them are not so well documented, I have to admit, but a lot of them are. And people have been submitting pull requests and contributing to the code bases and all that along as well. So there clearly is developer interest, and there are clearly projects that are showing up as well. But I mean, the biggest one by far that's going to be built on the Loki blockchain And we've got to do a bit of work to help the Loki blockchain support it as well. It's going to be Blockswap. Blockswap is going to be an enormous product for the Loki network. So yeah, that's something that, you know, people external to us have come along and, you know, they've asked for some help with it, but ultimately, you know, these are ideas that are coming from other places, and people are contributing to the ecosystem and are trying to, you know, work together with us to bring new technologies and new use cases for our network. So it's really, really exciting.
That sounds so cool. We are nearly at the end, but before we go, how can people get involved? How can people set up a node? What is the thing that is most needed in terms of community contribution?
Well, something that's been a really popular choice for people involved in the Loki ecosystem is becoming a part of the Loki service node network. So that is running a full node. You do have to have a fair bit of Loki to be able to stake into them. But once you do that, there's currently, I think it's 1,200 Loki service nodes right now, and they all participate in routing of Loki net traffic. They all participate in storing and retrieving sessions messages. When you open the session app, you are using people's service nodes. It's a really, really cool system. And so that's been a really popular way for people not only to be able to contribute to the ecosystem, but also be able to earn some rewards from it as well through the blockchain's block reward. So that's a good option. Otherwise, there's always small things that we need helping out on. Translations is a big one, especially for session. So if you speak a second language fluently, you can either help us by translating the app or apps into your native language, or helping us review someone else's translation. We never release a translation without a second opinion. So they're really useful ways to help out. If you're a developer, we have lots of code bases and lots of different frameworks and languages that are all super cool, that have really professional developers working on them and would love your help. There's lots and lots of ways to get involved. Some technical, some not technical. So yeah, there's a lot to do. If you have any questions, or if you have an idea of how you might be able to help, you can always reach out to me as well. I'll be able to put you in touch with the right person if it's a good fit.
And how can people reach out to you?
Well, you can use the old school method, which is email, which would be simon@loki.network, or you could use the fancy schmancy new methods like session, for instance. And you can find the link to my session ID, even though it's currently not working, but will be fixed by tomorrow, at simonharmon.github.io, which is also where you'll find my blog, my DeFi post, and some other bits and pieces, some of the stuff that I've written for Loki. I'm going to put more there. It's going to be a cool website, all right? I know it looks kind of bad right now, but I threw it together. So it is what it is. I'll tell you what, I'll just put the link to the site in there, and then then there's my email and everything else in there. So you'll be able to do whatever you want to do, and follow me on Twitter, of course. That's very important. It's critical.
Of course. Okay, I guess to end, Mitch Travers asked, from what I've gathered, hi Mitch, Mitchewski. From what I've gathered, you're not going to do a governance token for Blockswap, or?
If we were going to do a governance token for Blockswap, I don't think it would have been a fantastic idea to write a scathing article on the use of governance tokens. So I think you're spot on, mate.
You know that in Portuguese, lucky means crazy. So maybe,
I thought that was loco.
Oh, but it's slang, lucky as well.
Okay, cool. I did not know that. Oh, I'm sorry, I posted the wrong link in the chat, just thinking. I hit enter accidentally.
All right. I reckon, okay, let me just check if there's any last minute questions. No, I think we're good. All right, Simon, thank you so much for taking the time and talking to us in this real fireside chat. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, it has been a pleasure. I've enjoyed chatting. I hope I haven't been ranting too much.
Absolutely not. This is the rant channel.
Yeah, I've left the link to my website in the chat. So if you want to check that out, please do so. Be contacted in a myriad of ways. And it's been an absolute pleasure being here today's meetup. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye, y'all. I will see you next month or at the next stream or at Twitch when we'll play Sham Moray. All right. Bye.